Okay, Pokemon Masters, it's time for an update. Hey Pokemon Masters, Buckkeeper Toby here, and yes, consider this video your official end of Generation 8 update before all of the new Pokemon start getting revealed for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Since Sword and Shield came out and I did the 2020 update video, there have been a lot of new Pokemon appearing, from the Isle of Armour to the Crown Tundra, and not only that, even extinct species of Pokemon appearing in Pokemon Legends Arceus. Where they place on the Tree of Evolution and how they became extinct is a discussion that I'd love to have. In fact, I have had a lot of help from you in the comments of videos when the DLCs came out about ghost Pokemon, and also from the 31st, Prima Diva, and Palette University, who are experts in the world of biology and biodiversity, fossilization, and plants. So thank you to everyone who's contributed to this. This is kind of the official end of Gen 8 update for the Tree of Evolution, and of course you can see the whole Tree of Evolution playlist on my channel. I'm planning maybe at the end of this year or maybe next year to consolidate some of these videos and make a new official big video, but for now, this is the main update. As a side note though, it is sad to think that I'll be putting Pokemon onto this Tree of Evolution that are now possibly completely extinct, like Weirdeer and Basculegion. Of course, this is just imitating real life, where the biodiversity of the planet has been shrinking as a result of changes by, well, people, and as a result of the climate crisis. If you feel as helpless as I often do in the face of that information, then don't fret. You might be a fan of today's sponsor, Ren, and there'll be more information about them at the end of the video, but I'm super happy to be teaming up with them on this video specifically. So please make sure you stick around until the end. Right, let's do the full Tree of Evolution update that will come in 3 parts. First, the DLCs, then Legends Arceus, and then general changes since my 2020 Sword and Shield video. Let's start the DLCs. There were 2 DLCs for Pokemon Sword and Shield, the Isle of Armour and the Crown Tundra, that actually released with them a lot of new Pokemon. However, many of those Pokemon are considered legendary Pokemon, so you have Urshifu and Kubfu, Glastria, Spectria, and Calyrex, as well as the legendary birds and the Regis. All of these Pokemon I'm not going to place on the Tree of Evolution right now because I want to talk about legendary Pokemon separately in a separate video of their own. They are legendary for a reason, so I will come to those. However, there were 2 Pokemon that came out with these DLCs that are biological regular Pokemon. Slowking and Slowbro. I guess also Slowpoke, but as always we focus on the final evolution in any family line. So Slowbro and Slowking, I wonder what Pokemon on the Tree of Evolution they're the closest related to. Probably the pre-existing Slowking and Slowbro, but there is something interesting here. My question for you, is a Galarian Slowking more closely related to a regular Slowking or to Galarian Slowbro? My suspicion is that the Galarian counterparts are probably closer related to each other than they are to their original forms. So a Galarian Slowking is more closely related to a Galarian Slowbro than a regular Slowking. The reason for that, I think, is convergent evolution. The thing about Slowpoke that you have to remember is it evolves in a very specific way as the result of a symbiotic relationship between it and a Shelder and or Cloyster, depending on what you think the shell it's wearing is. And it just simply depends on where the Slowpoke is bitten, the tail or the head. But the biology of a Galarian Slowking and Slowbro is still that primarily of a Galarian Slowpoke over a regular Slowpoke and its evolutions. So that's the kind of the way that I'm thinking about it. Wow, I would really love to see that shell as like a regional variant in the future. The DLC, nice and easy. Legends Arceus, on the other hand, there are way more Pokemon. And of course, most, if not all of them, are regional variants and regional evolutions. There are some new Pokemon like Enamorus, but once again, this is a legendary Pokemon, and so I'm going to cover that in a future video. For now, I want to start with Ursaluna and Weirdeer, and these are 2 Pokemon that are actually going to replace their pre-evolutions on the Tree of Evolution. Ursaring will no longer appear on the tree, neither will Stantler, because we know that their ultimately evolved forms would be Weirdeer and Ursaluna. This isn't the same as the Koffings in Galar that evolve into Galarian Weezing while in Galar and regular Weezing elsewhere. As far as we know, Ursaluna and Weirdeer are the only evolutions to Stantler and Ursaring, and so Ursaring and Stantler are no longer the final evolutions, and even though they're considered extinct by modern day standards, they will be permanently replacing Ursaring and Stantler on the tree. As to why they went extinct, I suspect overhunting. Maybe not with Ursaluna, but certainly with Stantler. Stantler's not a very significant Pokemon in the modern day Pokemon world, but clearly it had a lot of symbolism and importance in the ancient days of Hisui. We can see from Stantler's Pokedex entries that it was hunted for its antlers, and we can actually see its antlers being used in the shape of the coat racks that are found in the Galaxy Expedition Team's building. I firmly believe that the antlers of a Weirdeer were considered special, possibly as a result of the events of Pokemon Legends Arceus, of which you are personally responsible. I wonder if its antlers were considered so sacred by the ancient people that they hunted them into extinction to the point where it was no longer beneficial for Stantler to evolve into Weirdeer. It was safer for them to not grow to a point where their antlers were desirable. Ursaluna does evolve via an item that you find in the ground, so I do just wonder if the material for that just sort of disappeared over time. It also has a very specific evolution condition, needing to evolve specifically when the moon is a particular way in the sky, and I just wonder if that as an evolution strategy was too niche that ultimately Ursaluna just didn't survive that long. Ursaring by itself is perfectly powerful. Basculegion is a Pokemon I've sort of talked about before, and once again, I think it's a case of bad evolutionary strategy. It exists as the result of the spirits of Deathbed Basculin coming together to create Basculegion. That is a net loss in your species population. If hundreds of Basculin need to come together to die to create one Basculegion, that's probably not going to be a very specifically successful evolutionary strategy. I can see why evolving into a stronger, faster, able to deal with the strong tides Basculegion would be good for that one creature, but long term as a species as a whole, it was clearly more beneficial for Basculin to separate into multiple forms, which is what we see in the Unova region. The Hisuian Avalugg actually looks very similar to its modern day counterpart. I suspect as a result of the coldness of Hisui, it just got more comfortable in the ice. That's really all I've got for that one. Hisuian Arcanine is actually really clear to me, because while the old Hisuian version is really cool, that coolness may have led to more people wanting to own one, to pet one, to cuddle one, and actually given their rock typing, their skin and their fur was probably a lot harder than it would have been nowadays, but people like their fluffy pet dogs, and I think ultimately the result of sort of generations of breeding for the traits that you want, for the fluffiness, for the cuteness, that's what turned Hisuian, Growlithe, and Arcanine into today's regular Growlithe and Arcanine. Hisuian Goodra reaffirms my decision to put Goodra as a mollusk, because clearly here it is in a shell and very closely related to regular Goodra, I suspect. Overquill is a Pokemon that is an evolution to Hisuian Quillfish, which of course is going to be closely related to modern day Quillfish. As to why this version of Quillfish is no longer seen in the oceans, I actually don't know. My suspicion is the ocean is vast and it will reappear in the seas once again one day, but for now I have no idea how or if this Pokemon actually went extinct. Similarly, I feel the same way about Hisuian Braviary. I fully suspect that this version of Braviary exists somewhere out there in northern icy tundras, but for now, that is just speculation. I have no reason to think that this Pokemon actually did go extinct. And actually, the final Pokemon I suspect this is true for is Hisuian Zoroark. We've actually seen an image of Hisuian Zoroark in Scarlet and Violet, suggesting it can exist in modern day. But the wild thing about this is even regular Zoroark is like really rare. It uses its illusion ability to disguise itself as people. And this isn't just like modern day Zoroark. This is a ghostly spectral form that exists in the snow that is camouflaged by its surrounding. I suspect Hisuian Zoroark still exists out there. It's just a phenomenally rare and hard to find Pokemon. It's so well camouflaged and it's so discreet. I suspect after its Pokedex entries that talk about how humans chased it and turned it into this ghostly form, I really do suspect that this Pokemon is probably just avoiding people for now. The three Hisuian starters are obviously most closely related to their modern day counterparts, as is the case with all of these. Decidueye is an owl, Typhlosion is a honey badger, and Samurott literally looks exactly the same as regular Samurott. The differences are so small, I suspect that it's not a case that this form was unsuccessful and just went extinct. I actually think this form probably just turned into the modern day form. They're so similar, which, personal note here, I think is a real wasted opportunity to do something cool with Samurott's design. As for Decidueye, I can't quite say why that went extinct, but with Typhlosion, it's pretty clear. Hisuian Typhlosion is tied to Hisui somehow. Its Pokedex entries talk about how it's powered by the spiritual nature in the mountain in the center of Hisui. Ultimately, the dynamics of the Hisui region as it turns into the Sinnoh region have changed. Perhaps that spiritual energy, a result of Spiritomb or the distortion world, just existed more prevalently then, and it now means that modern day Typhlosion can't evolve that way. The two remaining Pokemon are the most interesting two. I've been saving them till last. Electrode and Kleavor. Let's start with Kleavor. Kleavor, according to its Pokedex entries, evolves from Scyther like this because of certain minerals in the ground. And we actually see that the item that you use to evolve it is the black agate. It's a little bit of stone that we can't find in the modern day Pokemon world. It's actually found around the area that will become Allberg Mine. I suspect this material was mined by people and used to turn into tools for them to use, leaving none left for the Scyther. As they kept mining though, they would have found other metals that people would have eventually crafted into metal coats, turning the Scyther into Scizor. This kind of finally ties together the Pokedex entry about Scyther that live in mountains, which seems like an odd place for Scyther to live until you consider that actually they're used to eating rocks as part of their diet, and ultimately the evolution to Scizor now makes a lot of sense. And the final Pokemon is Electrode, which completely changes a huge part of the evolution tree, and that's something I'm going to be talking about in the update section in a minute. But I believe that Electrode is, well, it's a plant. Its body is a lot like the apricorns that we find all over the Hisui region. That much we know about. But what does that mean for modern day Electrode? Well, I no longer think that Electrode is a man-made Pokemon. It's true, Voltorb was first seen in Pokeball factories, certainly the modern day Voltorb was, but Pokeball factories started as a result of turning plant matter, apricorns, into, well, Pokeballs. And we know that there are sort of two different kinds of plants that exist in the Pokemon world. There are plants like trees and grass and flowers, and then there are plant Pokemon, living creatures that are made of plant matter. I suspect there may be some kind of fungal or parasitic infection that exists on the surface of the apricorn, causing it to turn into a Voltorb. And the reason it looks like a Pokeball, and the reason I said fungal, might have to do and be reflected in the Pokemon Among Us that is literally, again, got that kind of mimicry of a Pokeball on its head. The evolutionary path that would lead a Pokemon to look like this may be one of defense, hey, I'm an oversized Pokeball, I'm clearly wrong, don't come near me, or it might be to attract strong trainers who are going to want to catch and evolve that Pokemon. Anyway, as the looks of modern day Pokeballs changed from the wooden apricorn ones of the past to the modern metallic ones, I suspect so too did the evolution of Voltorb and Electrode happen in line with that, where it eventually lost its grass typing over time. You know what? Also, speaking of plants, I nearly forgot Hisuian Lilligant, because it's a Lilligant, and I just very forgettable Pokemon. Clearly closely related to regular Lilligant, obviously. And that is Pokemon Legends Arceus. So we've done the DLC, we've done the Legends Arceus, but there are updates to the Tree of Evolution as well. I, a couple years ago now, did a video about ghost Pokemon, and I've also been thinking a lot about man-made Pokemon and how they might change on the Tree of Evolution, and I'm gonna get rid of the ghost tree. Regional variants since Sword and Shield have proven to me categorically that ghost Pokemon are living creatures in the Pokemon world. I cannot argue that a Galarian Cursula is not closely related to a Corsola. That just makes sense to me, as well as Hisuian Zoroark being closely related to regular Zoroark. These Pokemon are biological living creatures with ghost typing, and therefore I need to take the ghost Pokemon off of their ghost tree and distribute them across the Pokemon Tree of Evolution. So these are the changes I've decided on, but again, feel free to debate with me in the comments. This is speculative evolution. Aegislash, Banette, Mimikyu, Cofagrigus, and Runagus. All of these Pokemon I'm moving from the ghost tree and putting them onto the man-made tree. I know these aren't all necessarily man-made Pokemon, human-made Pokemon, but I do think there are elements to their design that suggest that they have to be human objects imbued with some kind of spiritualness. I think the most debatable one here is Mimikyu, but as we've never been able to see the Pokemon underneath the cloth, we have nothing else to go on, so I have to place it here on the tree. The other Pokemon that I want to put in with this category and move from the Ghost Tree over is Spiritomb, because again, it's bound to an odd keystone. Can this Pokemon exist without the odd keystone? I did a video recently suggesting that it might be closely related to Hisuian Typhlosion, but I know most of you would, I think, prefer on the evolutionary tree that it sits with the Pokemon like Mimikyu and Aegislash and Banette. Another Pokemon I'm going to move over to the human-made section, actually from the rock-bodied Pokemon section, is Probopass. I am just convinced at this point that the Draconids were the people who made Nosepass and Probopass for navigating the world. They seem to be human-made Pokemon, and so I'm going to put them over in the human-made section. The only other ghost that I want to talk about right now now is Palisand, which I'm actually going to put from the ghost area over to the mineral-based Pokemon, to the rock-based Pokemon, because it's made up of sand. A few quick updates here. Beware, it's more closely related to a red panda than a bear. Dragapult, it shouldn't really be in with the dragon part of evolutionary life. It's actually based on an ancient sort of proto-amphibian, and so I want to place it at the beginning of the amphibian branch. And then we have a very speculative part of the evolutionary tree, and one that I'm convinced I got wrong when I made it after Sword and Shield came out, Phalanx. When I first saw Phalanx, I thought it was a caterpillar. Then it's separated into 5 separate life forms. How do we deal with this on a biological tree of life? Primadiva suggested to me that maybe it could be like an ant colony and that actually it would make sense to put them in with the insects, but I'm just not sure. My favorite theory is the one by Loxton, the one that suggests that a Snorunt is a lost Phalanx. I put Snorunt, Glalie, and Frostlass in with the kind of fairy, fae, spiritual human Pokemon like Gallade and Gardevoir, Gothitelle, and all of those Pokemon that we have to be a bit more speculative with. I think Phalanx falls in that category really well, and so therefore so too does Glalie, and Frostlass. But if you have any disagreements to that, you'll have to let me know in the comments down below. I did a video talking about the ghost Pokemon Dusknoir and how I think it's actually related to Guzzlord, so I'm going to do with that like what I did with Wobbuffet and the Unknown, and actually hide Dusknoir's design in with the Ultra Beast the next time we update the Tree of Evolution poster. And then we are left with one whole, almost entirely new branch to the Tree of Evolution based on a number of really complicated designs. So let's break it down. So, because the Pokemon world is not like the real world, and plant Pokemon are living organisms more akin to like animals than they are plants, they have to find a place on the Tree of Evolution. I've speculated that Cradily is sort of the creation, the junction point for that branch of the Tree of Evolution. And from that branch of the Tree of Evolution, we get plant-like people Pokemon. Pokemon like Lilligant and Roserade and Blossom, and then from there you actually end up with a lot of the like Fae and Spirit-like Pokemon, which is where Phalanx can come into it, along with like Gallade and Bisharp and Gardevoir. Glalie and Frostlass all make sense in that world of Fae and spirits, and there is another connection to the realm of spirits in with the plants with Pokemon like Delmise and Gourgeist. These are ghostly plants, and I think this is the beginning of yet another branch of Fae-like creatures. An explanation for ghost Pokemon biologically in the Pokemon world. Much how Delmise is seaweed, Poltegeist is made of tea leaves and the extract of tea leaves, so I actually think a plant-based ghost once again will go well next to Delmise. Then there is something new that appeared in Pokemon Legends Arceus, which really threw me off. The appearance of Galarian Weezing, but like 150 to 300 years ago. I suspect that Weezing and Galarian Weezing are no longer man-made Pokemon, that they are actually some quirk of evolution conducive to the Pokemon world only. So what is Weezing? Well, it's a floating orb filled with gas, no matter what form it looks like. Again, Galarian Weezing has that fairy-like element, so maybe it ties in here. And then I looked at Gourgeist, a Pokemon that is an orb that is filled with some kind of gas. You can see the flame inside emanating warm, and there are actually a few other Pokemon from the ghost part of the tree that work really well here. Chandelure and Drifblim, both floating balloon-like Pokemon that could work as the in-between between a Gourgeist and a Weezing. Just look at Drifblim, it's perfect with its extra appendages looking a lot like Gourgeist. It's a floating hot air balloon after all. Gourgeist also learns a bunch of fire-type moves, as does Drifblim. Chandelure certainly does, being part fire-type, so you can see how all of these Pokemon may well be related and connected to each other. Also, this idea of living gas could give rise to 2 other Pokemon. The only 2 Pokemon I am really struggling with on the Tree of Evolution. Gengar and Rotom. Gengar starts as an orb of gas. Is it possible that this is the part of the Tree of Evolution it's on? Or do we go with the Clefable Shadow theory and say that Gengar is the kind of ghostly version of Clefable in the same way that Cursula is to Corsola? If so, it belongs as a sort of alien spectral shadow on that part of the tree. I'd really love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. As for Rotom, it's living plasma, closely related to fire? So could it be that it belongs here with Gourgeist and Weezing? I don't think so. But then what does that mean for this Pokemon's origins? Well, if any Pokemon is going to be similar to legendary Pokemon and their origins, Rotom would be that Pokemon. There are very old theories suggesting that Rotom should be a legendary Pokemon and the intentions behind that. For now, I'm not 100% sure. Rotom existed in ancient Hisui, so that means that it's not something human-made, that's for sure. Whatever the case is, I want to work it out with you in the comments down below. And if you've watched this far into a Birdkeeper Toby evolution tree video, then hi, I don't know who you are, you're like me, just interested in the biology of fictional creatures and possibly also the biology of real creatures and the biodiversity of life here on the planet. What you and I do on a personal level on the day-to-day, it all contributes towards the global warming of the planet. Keeping our emissions down is very important to protect the biodiversity of life on the planet. And as we're speaking about the tree of evolution, let's talk about trees with today's sponsor, Ren. Ren offers you a very quick and easy to use quiz where you fill in details about your lifestyle and your energy usage, and you can see exactly what your carbon imprint is on the planet. If you're curious about your carbon footprint, use that link at the top of the description to try out Ren's quick and easy to use questionnaire. I did it earlier, and you answer questions about your energy usage as well as your lifestyle as a whole, and you'll get a pretty good idea of exactly what your carbon footprint is. From here, you can use Ren's resources and information to learn more about how you can lower your carbon footprint, or my favorite thing about it, based on your answers to the questionnaire, Ren will create a monthly contribution plan to help offset your carbon footprint with projects like planting trees. And actually, for the first 100 people that sign up using the link at the top of the description, Ren will plant an additional 10 trees for every person that signs up. This is without a doubt the partnership that contributes the most good to the world that I have ever done in 7 years on this channel, and I am so excited to get to work with Ren on this. I have started up my monthly contribution plan, and I hope you will too. So check them out using the link at the top of the description, and thank you so much to Ren for sponsoring this video. Right, next up, legendary Pokemon and all of the Pokemon in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Let's see what's on the horizon, and of course, soar high Pokemon Masters.
This is Ash Ketchum. You just watched a video by Birdkeeper Toby. That makes you a Pokemon Master.
As always, a massive thank you to those of you who support this channel on Patreon. You make this channel possible, and a special thank you to the big patrons of this month, the Elgator, Jedruben, and Michael Hornschuch. Thank you.